A racist relic of the past is still on the books in many Dane County neighborhoods. Racial covenants were written into subdivision and housing deeds in the 1800s and 1900s to keep minority groups out of the suburbs. Now they're no longer enforceable. Tonight, Sarah Massler-Donar is digging deeper into the horrifying reminder of segregation and the inequities that still exist today.
This unassuming Middleton neighborhood hides an ugly past in plain sight if you know where to look.
That was pretty upsetting.
Sarah Hartman and her husband were in the market to buy a home in Middleton's Park Lawn neighborhood in 2006. They started poring over old property documents.
And then we got to the clause that said Caucasians only could live in this house.
Racially restrictive covenants ban specific minority groups from purchasing a home or property.
The goal of these was to segregate, is that correct?
Exactly, right? Racial segregation, racial exclusion has been part of the American city really since the early 19th century.
So it's not just any one geographical area, it's not just any one race. It really impacted and affected a lot of people.
I sat down with a couple of regional experts. Julia Lachey Israel is the head of diversity, equity, and inclusion for Keller Williams Realty International. She also teaches homebuyer education. University of Wisconsin-Madison professor Kurt Paulson specializes in urban planning. Paulson says the first mark against racial covenants came in 1948 when the Supreme Court ruled they were unconstitutional. Then came the Civil Rights Act of 1964, then the Fair Housing Act in 1968. But by then, the damage was done. And as Lachey Israel tells me, even the Fair Housing Act wasn't fully enforced until the 80s.
So past that, 1988, we still have these deed restrictions that existed, are no longer enforceable. But at this point, we've now got a large population of people that have been prevented from accessing homeownership.
A recent report from the nonpartisan Wisconsin Policy Forum shows 72% of white Wisconsin residents own their own home. Compare that to 41% of Hispanic residents and 25% of black residents.
It's one of the worst states in the nation for black home ownership. And here in Dane County, it's 15%. So it's still one of the most racially segregated and places of racial disparities that continue today.
In 2020, the country faced a racial reckoning when a police officer murdered George Floyd. Sarah Hartman knew it was time to speak up.
I have my vote and I have my voice, and this was a way to use my voice to bring the matter to the attention of people who could do something about it.
It was shocking. It was incredible. The whole council was flabbergasted that this is really here in Middleton.
After Hartman came forward, Middleton Mayor Gerrit Brar and the Common Council took what action they could.
The city really doesn't have the authority to cancel those or eliminate those, but we came up with a resolution which condemns it.
Homeowners have to initiate the legal process to disavow a racial covenant. It can be complicated and costly.
I can imagine that if you don't have an organization who is servicing these types of things, it would be potentially difficult for a homeowner to navigate this process on their own.
Hartman hopes Wisconsin can come up with a way to make the process of rejecting these racist relics more accessible.
This is one small piece that I felt I was able to bring to people's attention, and I hope that people who do have the power to do something about it can do something.
In Middleton, Sarah Massler-Donar, 27 News.
Recently, the Dane County Planning and Development Department partnered with the Boys and Girls Club to map out some racially restrictive covenants in the county. We have a link to that interactive map on our website, WKOW.com.